going on, everybody? Troy Rawlings here. Welcome to another exciting episode of Meet the. Today, I got the amazing leadership coach, author, speaker, I guess motivational guru, but he has a little bit more than that. He's into activating folks. But we'll get him to talk more about that. Y'all make some noise. Give it up for Mr. Rodney R. PAYNE. How are you?
I'm good. Was that you were talking about me, or we have another guest coming on? I want to meet that dude. Who is that? He sounded important.
You're supposed to make it. It's got to be the build up. I don't do too much. I took off of the, Mr. Dynamite. I took that back.
All right. Thank you, sir.
So how are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I can't complain a bit. Can't complain. Well, like I said, I kind of Tarantino the interview a little bit, so I dance a little bit. We'll see what's what. But let's go all the way back. Where are you originally from?
The great state of Oklahoma. I grew up just east of Oklahoma City. I'm in Oklahoma County, a small town, and a small town guy. Both of my grandparents had farms. We all went to the same church and all hard workers. So I grew up in the country, but I like to say I'm straight from OKC repping the 405.
OKC. How's that farm life? That's what I kind of missed that. I'm from Baltimore originally, but and Maryland is the northernmost southern state, so we're not far from PA. But I remember going down to Virginia, staying with Big Mama, and by the time the rooster crowed, it was later than her. By the time I looked in the kitchen, everything for the day was already cooked.
Yeah. So I have so many memories. I mean, you're probably interested in being the city boy and all. We had the chickens, we slopped the hogs, we had cows. We had the garden. Everything was fresh. So we had to pick the weeds out, the greens, and pull potatoes and all that. But I was a young fella coming in. So the generation of my father, they were more active. I got to play with it. One grandfather had about 20 acres. The other one had about 5. And we had to rake the leaves on 5 acres. For what? It's outside, the wind blows. One of the interesting things about my childhood was, as a boy, my job was the trash. And so you would take the paper sack, the paper bag that you get at the grocery store. You would take that and you'd walk it up in the backyard and you put it in what was called the pen. The pen it was old box springs from mattresses that would keep the fire in. Then you would drop the bag, light the fire, and watch the fire until the trash finished burning. Then you were through taking the trash out.
You had to burn the trash in the pen. That's where you got rid of the trash.
Yeah, there were no trash trucks. Like my trash guy just came by and picked our little dumpster up and dumped it in and drove. No. I was the dumpster. We walked the trash up the hill away from the house. You had to go watch it. Yeah, we had to burn all our trash on site.
Man. So all right,
country.
I never heard the inhuman incinerator story. This new.
It was there. All of my cousins are well aware and familiar. Let me tell you, we all had to do it.
Let me tell you, this is my 92nd interview on Meet the.
Wow.
I've never heard. No one has ever told me about that part of farm life, that you had to incinerate your own trash.
Absolutely. And I love how you call it incinerate. It was truly, you had a book of matches. You may not be old enough to remember, but we had a book of matches. You strike the match, you light it, you find a piece of paper, and you fan it till you get your flame, and then you have a rake there to keep it all in the pile until it's down to a smolder, because you couldn't let it get away from you.
Just trash, garbage, whatever smells came up.
That was part, and then you smelled like that when you went back in the house.
Right. They thought, you must have been burning garbage out.
I digress, but let me give you one more, because you're really appreciate. Most people don't appreciate country living. So we were on well water, and in Oklahoma is famous for red dirt. So the water from your well had a red orangish hue to it, and you went to bathe in the red orangish hue, and you were told to wash sufficiently in the red water. And so as a kid, you're looking, the water is red. And they're like, boy, if you don't get your so-and-so in the tub. That was part of growing up that's where I grew up, in the country.
Red.
We got real water now, but that's how I grew up.
We got real water now. All right. So past the burning garbage and red water, What school did you go to? Coming out of there, what school did you go to? Where did your travels take you as far as college, high school? Did you play sports? You look like you're in good shape. Did you play sports in high school?
Yes, I did. Very interesting childhood. I could take you on a journey. To suffice it to say this, I went to 4 different grade schools, 3 different middle schools, and 4 different high schools in about 4 different states, ranging from Oklahoma to Green Bay to New Jersey to Washington, D.C.
Oh,
The
wow.
move, yeah, I stayed in D.C., Northeast. I'm sorry, Northeast. I'm sorry. Yeah, I stayed in
No, you
D.C.
said it right. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, and in D.C., I had the privilege of attending St. John Military Academy and also Roosevelt. I went both sides
Okay.
there. So my travels were based on the fact that my father, interesting story, was a NFL football player in the 70s. He played from 74 to 80. He played for Green Bay and the Eagles. And so that was kind of how I got around and how we moved around. So I went through all those places, ended up finishing up school right here in Oklahoma at the school called Midwest City High School, which that was my last school. The Oklahoma State head football coach was my quarterback in high school. I played receiver and I played football from 8 to 18. Football, I'm a football junkie. Got to college, went to HBCU LU, Langston University, which is
Hmm.
45 minutes from Oklahoma City. Spent some time, majored in a whole lot of stuff, but none of it was transferable to corporate America.
So how did you? So as far as coming full circle and you getting into corporate America, you got into corporate America in Oklahoma City or DC?
I did in Oklahoma City. So all of my travels led me back here. I finished up here, and then I just started living life and trying to figure out what I was going to be and where I was going to go. I went to college. I went to business school and got into banking and finance early on. Managed a couple of check cashing places. Then I got into the local bank and started at the very bottom and worked my way up to be an officer in the bank. So I went from rolling coins, working in the vault, to working in a teller window, to doing loan collections, grew up to asset liquidation. Then I went over into credit card issuing and acquiring, merchant services, the whole 9 yards. Ended up managing teams that covered the western half of the United States. So that's where my business acumen came in. It started developing in my early 20s. Quite frankly, we had we got married. I've been married 30 and a half, almost 31 years. Got married, had these kids, and they had to eat. So I was a grinder. So I was always, I had baby need a new pair of shoes, man. I had to work. And so I ended up, if there was an opportunity for a promotion, if there was an opportunity for a job, I didn't care what it was within the bank. I wanted to have it. And I ended up being the first African American banker that was an officer at my local bank back in the early 90s.
Hmm. So what transitioned you to, and now as people may see the cross and the documents on the wall, you're a pastor as well. So what transition, when did and this is more recent, the pastorate.
Well, actually not. So growing up in the country, the grandparents, they lived about 3 miles from each other, and both of my grandfathers were deacons in the same church.
Okay.
So no matter where I went, I couldn't hide from church. So I'm a church boy. I grew up as a church boy. And so growing up as a church boy, I was always in church. So I actually started preaching in 1996. I was a deacon for 2 years before that. So I've been in church my whole life. I mean, I'm the guy that got baptized at 5 years old, sang in every choir, went to the club on the weekends. I mean, I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to say that part. And finally got serious about my living for the Lord later on in life. But yeah, I'm that guy who was always in church and other places.
Right. And other places.
And other places.
So you come full circle, you go to college, you're in the church, for one, your schedule is packed. How many children do you have?
I have 2 adult children, girls. They're both married, and I've got 2 grandbabies. Life is worth living with grandbabies. Oh my goodness, life is full. Life is full. They can get anything they want. It's wonderful.
And you can give them back, is what I hear. I hear you.
Listen, you get to feed them sugar. Me and my grandson is 2. He'll be 3 in April, and I take him to school, do different things, and I had him one just last week, and my daughter said, "Papa took you out to eat twice in one day." I said, "Well, you eat more than once a day." She's like, "But you took him out." I'm like, "Well, we were out. I mean, of course." And the new baby, she's only 4, almost 5 weeks old, so got a brand new baby girl.
Congratulations.
Papa. Oh yeah, that's it, man.
All right. So So with everything that's going on now, let's fast forward a little bit. With everything that's going on now, coming off of 2020, I don't usually like to date these shows, but this is one of the most historical times in our history, and at least our century, with everything from pandemic to uprising to uh, crazy politics. Again, what
Absolutely.
um, where do you see yourself being drawn more to when it comes to coaching and leadership? Who are the people that are calling on you the most now for your mentorship, your knowledge?
There is always an element of individuals that want to better themselves. So there's a self-improvement crowd that's always there. But this season, even though it's been so difficult, it has provided more entrepreneurial opportunity than we've ever seen before. And so as a result, businesses don't fail because of bad products. They fail because of bad leadership. And so what happens is she's been baking cakes and now she want to go into the cake making business because she has to make some money. Well, she knows how to make a cake and knows how to make it taste good. But as far as actually how to get that business out there and what needs to happen and what steps you should go through and how to decide how many, that kind. So there's an element there now that's just hungry. So I find myself helping emerging entrepreneurs who are ready to go. And then I work with high net worth individuals, and those individuals at high net worth, what they have so much going on, and most all of them that I work with, they want more. So they need help figuring out what to do and what not to do, where to spend energy, how to not spend energy here, because there's so much going on out there. So the clients that come to me are looking to improve themselves, looking for process. I help with process, I help with decision making, and I help with accountability. So I'm going to equip you with a process. We're going to talk about how to do this thing. We're going to teach you how to make decisions. You got to be able to make decisions to lead at a high level. And then finally, did you do what you said you were going to do? You set the goal. I'm just going to make sure you get there.
Right. So taking people down the path of pulling the trigger and accountability as far
Absolutely.
as just making sure everything is on point. Who are some of your, I guess, for people that are looking, because you're absolutely right. This has been one of the most lucrative times in our history for a lot of, we've seen more millionaires and billionaires been made in 2020 than probably the past decade.
Absolutely.
So when you're talking to, well, I guess I should say, who have been some of the, you don't have to mention who they are,
Mhm.
but what type of businesses have you been able to or work with recently and
Just
see them like thrive?
just about every sector, but you mentioned about being a master barber. The game is changing. It's no longer about being a master barber, master stylist, or a cosmetologist. It's become more about I want to own my own place. I want to offer different levels of service. I want to do different things. How do I get there? I want to go from just marketing my skills to marketing my products. So businesses are expanding. So I'm getting a lot there. Um, Government contracting type businesses, because the doors are opening now so that you can get into on some GSA business. And so how do you do that? How do you present yourself? How do you get that business plan together? So we've got a lot of that going on. So government, nonprofit sector, hair, and that whole, I mean, that game has changed from even adding schools and what have you. And then I've got entrepreneurs that fall in just about every area for products and services. A lot of service organizations are coming up. So people are doing, um, I've got people that are making money picking up dry cleaning. It's a brand. They literally come to your house and their personal assistants, and they are making money. They know how to get the work done, but need help with the business.
Now, that's something that I'm glad you mentioned on, and I mentioned about barbering earlier. I really didn't, when I came to Los Angeles, since I started the entertainment company, I really didn't want to do the barbering piece. It's a trade. I wanted to have a lot of trades, like you said, to be able to make money. If things hit the fan, you always can do something. I'm cooking in restaurants for years, barbering, landscaping, whatever it is to make money. Um, but when I started seeing that there was a shift in how lucrative that the service businesses have become, you start seeing people that had aspirations doing different things. It's funny, see people, I've noticed this. You see people get a certain amount of money, entertainment industry, any kind of industry, any kind of windfall, any kind of thing that they get a certain amount of money in. And we end up going back to, okay, well, I want to own some tractor trailers. I want to own some hauling trucks for landscaping. I want to open a salon about. So we go back to the service industries because they seem to be the places that never heard. Mentioned a company that I work with, Freedom Paper Company, and the young man was into real estate and stuff. And when everything hit the fan, he said he went back and studied what hadn't lost money even as far back as the Great Depression, and it was paper goods. So he started Freedom Paper Company, a toilet paper company. and this was 10 years before 2020.
But you know, the difference now though is the people who are wanting to go back to their first love, so to speak, open that business. Now it's not about they've made their money, because you know, if you're good with that hair and you're good with that cosmetology, that makeup thing, you can make some money. It's not that. It's now I can have a shop, I can have a studio, I can hire 4 people and I can teach them the game and I can empower them. So now it's become more of how do we get that self-sustaining market piece going on right in our own area. See, being in Oklahoma, this is the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre, Black Wall Street, 100 years. That's 90 minutes from my house. And so the concept for the young, and I work with all demographics, but for the young African American to say that we had everything, I mean, everything. The banks on Black Wall Street were loaning money to the whites who didn't live there, to less privileged whites. That doesn't exist anymore. So what I'm seeing now, business is more about more than just my fortune. It's about how do I empower, how do I equip, and sustainability, right? So you go make your quick money, but then everybody who does anything well typically wants to do more. And when you start trying to put too many things on your plate, it can be done, but how do you not end up like the circus clown that's spinning the plates, right? Circus clown sits down, he spins 1 plate, spins 2. Before you know, he's got 15 plates spinning. The part that no one pays attention to is he always goes back to the first plate and spins it again, and spins it again, and spins it again. That's the only way it doesn't crash. So I'm the guy that's going to help you figure out how do I balance this, leverage this, and maximize what I have going on in my business. And one of my big things, I have a mission statement for me. I equip people to experience the best version of themselves every day in every area of their life. I don't want a millionaire who's a jerk father. I'm just saying, I don't want somebody who's a great dad, but your kids are hungry. We got to get some balance here. Let's be good at more than one thing. And that's what I bring to the table.
So I like that you said a balance. Balance is like the key to everything. One of the things that you mentioned is teaching and duplicating. What are some of the things that you in your own walk that you find yourself teaching that you've learned? Like, you know it like the back of the hand. You've had several things, but you said the banking and the finance industry. Would you consider that a part of your main forte because you've seen from rolling the coins all the way up to being an officer? Is the financial as far as at least the banking financial sector, is that one of your fortes?
The way I look at it is there wasn't one place that could box me in, right? And what I found is that I use and leverage the same skill set and the same strength zone, if you will, for everything that I do well. And so I've narrowed the focus down to one thing, which is equipping people, period. And we do that through intentionality. So it doesn't matter what area you need help in. My goal is to help and equip you. So I'm not the guy that comes to bail you out. I'm the guy that hops in the trenches and says, okay, how do we get out of here? And while we're getting out, let's take some notes. Let's make sure we never end up back here again. And what do we do once we get out of here? Now what's next? And so it's all about intentionality. I try to instill in my clients that you are worth the investment. An entrepreneur that won't spend money on themselves will not make it. You won't. You don't know enough today to be the best version of yourself. I don't care how much you don't know enough today. There's more. And when you figure that out and you're intentional about investing and growing, I tell people all the time, I wouldn't fool with a coach who doesn't have coaches and mentors. I wouldn't have anybody working with me who doesn't have somebody working with them. because that means they think they made it. So my goal is let's go get it every single day and get better at what you do.
So, and I like that intentionality. I always talk when I'm talking to my team, I talk about pulling the trigger, and I but not had gone to School of Hard Knocks. Hadn't went to college yet. I say yet because I do want some letters behind my name when I write my next set of books.
Well,
So
I understand.
you're
Just
awesome.
to be clear, I went to college. I didn't stay. I just went. Okay, I won't be clear. I went. I had a great time. I learned a lot of other things that weren't in the curriculum.
Right.
So no, I get it. I get it.
So you're a book author as well. What was your first?
I've written 2 books, and the first one is called 90 Days of Believing God. It's a practical approach to faith and growing in faith. So it's not some book that just says you touch it, you have faith, it's done. No, it's the how to. Growing up in the church, I heard African American colloquialisms, and they would say things like, "Turn it over to Jesus, He'll work it out." And so in my mind, I'd take the book and I'd turn it over, and nothing changed. And so I wanted to equip people with how to do that, right? And we go on a what I call a 3-trimester journey, much like a pregnancy. We believe God personally, we believe God purposefully, and then we believe God positionally. And I teach you how to do that. And I follow that up with my sophomore project, which is 90 Days of Believing God, the Devotional and Journal. Everybody's got these devotionals, everybody got these journals, and they got 7 books, and you got to be a bag lady to carry all your books to write your stuff down. I wanted to give you a book where you could do it all in the same book and I'm a man. I need about 4 bullets and life is good for me. So I put it in the same place, and it parallels the book. So for the person that wants the textbook, they get the textbook. For the person that's like, give me the Cliff Notes, you get this, you read a 5-minute story a day and jot down some thoughts. And the ultimate goal is that you move from one place to the next.
Yeah, that's very important, and I gotta support and get the book because that's
I'm gonna make sure that you get us. I'll get you a set and I'm gonna sign them for you.
Oh, thank you. No, but it's important that we do that, but also because of when trying times really come like this, and the stuff that we went through in 2020 and are gun shy about in 2021. This is the time, like no other time, that we need to make sure our faith is straight and we're hearing the next steps. We're planning, but the steps is what messes us up. We got a great plan.
Oh,
the
yeah.
steps.
Process.
Jack us up.
Troy, listen, 2020 was 2020, okay? 2021 didn't just come in and say, oh, it's all good now. I mean, it's got its own set of stuff that's still going on.
Right.
So I'm real big into systems. I'm real big into process, and I'm real big. Circumstances are going to be there because I know some people who were broke before 2020. 2020 changed their life financially for the good. I know some people who got some stimulus checks and who got some extended unemployment, didn't waste it, saved it, and got the seed money they've been waiting on to start their business, and were able to start their business based on some of those tools that we had at but others got some new Nikes and they got some new Jordans and all of that. So it's about how do we begin to restructure systems that foster success and growth. That's what we're trying to do. So the reason that I spend time coaching people, and yes, I get paid to coach people and all that, but when I win is when we spend some time together and you go get what's yours. You go get that dream. You decide to come back in and you're able to do that. That's what happens with me. Whenever I see somebody that I've worked with, I call it a privilege, and I call it sitting here on the front row in 8K. It's right here, and I get to watch you as you transform, as you own that business, as you give birth, as you become. And that, man, you probably can tell, that's what brings out the excitement and the fire in me, because we don't have to lose. If you're gonna, I'm so tired of us writing narratives based on what could happen bad. If you're gonna write your own narrative, why don't you just write it? I mean, if you're gonna write, if it hadn't happened, you don't know what's happened. Why don't you live instead of die? Why don't you win instead of lose? Why aren't you
That's
the
right.
millionaire instead of the person on welfare? I mean, if you're writing your own story, write it the way you want it to read.
That's right. And someone, Barbie Liss, she mentioned, I interviewed her, and she mentioned, she was like, it's our story, and we're the editor too.
That's right.
And when she said that as an author, you're like, oh, well, yeah, that means you can tell your story the way you want to, and you can change the course and the ending. So,
That's so good. John
right,
Maxwell is one of my mentors. He has a book. It's a book. I can't think of the name of the book, but the book has a cover and a back. It's about this thick and it's full of blank pages. And the instructions are write your own story. It's write your own story. That's the instructions. You want
if it
here is
was
your
me,
story.
I'd sell that book for $1,000. That's the greatest book ever written. Right,
You write your own story. That's what it is. So I'm trying to help you write your story. That's what I'm trying to do. And so with me being in faith like I am, being a pastor, I'm a man of God, unapologetically, I'm sure enough a preacher. I preach the word of God. I believe in Jesus Christ. Yes. With that being the case, I use the same skill set because everybody deserves an opportunity. And so people say, well, how do you switch them? I don't switch them. I'm the same guy all the time, but I'm going to use whatever words you need to hear to help you get off your backside and go get your dreams and be that person.
Some people don't know Tony Robbins is a Christian, but if you ever hear Tony Robbins talk, you're like, man, is he? I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm ready to go. He's like,
you can't hide. You can't hide it. If it's you can't hide it, man. You can't hide it.
Right. So here's the well, I want to, like I said, I'm gonna turn to you a little bit. I want to go back a little bit. You said your father was in the NFL.
I did.
Is he still alive now?
He is not. He is not. My dad passed away in 2011. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, he's obviously one of my heroes. And I'll let you ask the questions, but I'm happy. I'd love the opportunity to talk about my daddy. And I'm a grown man. He is my daddy.
All in. Because one of the things we hear in the average, and I think you said he played in the NFL 6 years, which is 2 years longer than the average NFL player. And so how was that coming up? I know the traveling, because at first I was going to ask you, was he military? And when you said NFL, it's like, okay, I got it. Because I had friends that played in the NFL, and when I was cutting. I was in Baltimore, so I was cutting Ravens hair, and I know the course. I learned the course of what happens in an NFL career. But financially, the NFL, the players who retire or leave the NFL, I think they're worse out of any sport usually.
Well, yeah,
they're usually the youngest and they have the shortest span. So how did
we got to go back? We're in the 70s. We're not getting hundreds of millions of dollars to do anything. We're getting thousands of dollars.
Right.
We're getting above a factory job, but we're not making a lot of money. But my dad, if I could just take a minute to introduce him, he is a graduate of Langston University, HBCU. He graduated from Langston. My dad played in the 70s there, was on the last undefeated team. From his team, one of his homeboys, some of his homeboys.
What's your dad's name?
My dad's name is Kenneth Payne Jr. And he played with Thomas Hollywood Henderson. These are friends of my family, friends of my dad. Von Holmes, Ed played, man, just Ed Williams. And a lot of these guys went pro out of a HBCU and you talking about the country in Oklahoma on the Hill. So my dad, when he finished playing ball, he was an entrepreneur. He owned a landscaping company, and he taught me how to work. And my dad, I can't, it's not proper for me to say on air, but I'm going to give you the gist of it. If you were, as my father would call you, a man child, man children get up and go to work. And he would tell me, and I think he got this from Dick Vermeil because he played for the Eagles when Dick Vermeil was the coach there. He said, if you want to hoop with the Owls, you got to be able to soar like an eagle. Now, you being from that area, you probably remember the Point, right? Haynes Point? You probably remember that. So we would work all day on the truck. We'd go home and shower. We'd go to the Point until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever. And my dad said, y'all kick it out if you want to. But in the morning. You got to get up and hit that truck. And so we would get up and go work. So my dad taught me how to work. He had a heart so big. He helped anybody. He would give you his shirt off his back. And just the work ethic and commitment and passion to this day. And I say this, I mean, if you take my wife and kids away out of the picture, my father told me he loved me more than anybody on the planet ever, ever, my daddy. And so I believe in taking care of your kids, going to work. And his daddy, who we just buried my grandfather a year ago, his father lived up to be 85, 86 years old. And he was the same way. My mother's father worked until he was 80 plus years old, lived to be 96. I mean, so that man being around me, and I understand my parents divorced when I was 5 years old. That was no excuse for my father. He said, take care of your business. And so I'm glad I don't get a chance to talk about him much, but when I think about it, he was a champion in college. He did it all, man. He did it all and didn't do it the easy way. I mean, I was born and he was young. I was out there at the school with him. I still have people come to me today and say, I remember you from Langston. They're not talking about when I was out there cutting up. They're talking about when I was out there 4 and 5 years old, hanging out with my daddy. Absolutely.
And the reason that's necessary is because we don't get that. I'm a single father. My daughter's with me so much that when I run into people and say, and how's your daughter? Women love to say, and how's your daughter?
Yeah.
But your child, I think that's necessary because, and this goes out to all the entrepreneurs out there as well. It's just like, the kids are doing the homeschooling thing. So I'm working and now our work looks like play to them.
Yeah.
Because we're working on the phone.
Exactly.
So the blessing is you got the office. So at least when you're in the office, you can sit back and say, hey, I'm working. I'm on the couch with my feet up. She comes and that's me. You know what I was thinking? Or she's playing stuff. I was like, I'm actually working. I'm working right now. See these little things in my ear? They can hear you.
Yeah.
People don't remember when the parents used to grit at you. Hold on.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's how I grew up. I won't tell you the truth. But my kids are old though, man. My kids are 27 and 29.
The adult girls.
They're adult, but I've even when I was in corporate America, we went to remote working long ago. So I managed the western part of the United States right here from Oklahoma. So I'd sit in my office and work like this every day anyway. So we learned how to do that thing. I think, but when we talk about coaching and entrepreneurship, no one has to wonder why you work as hard as you do. See, when they walk around and you see them and we laugh and we joke and we say, baby need a new pair of shoes. No. Baby need a new pair of shoes and grandbaby need a trust fund. So I got to go to work. That's my motivation. My motivation is to truly, my wife of 30 years, honestly, and my kids, they are why I do what I do. And so I've made the money, had the houses, had the cars, had the job. Now I'm working on legacy, man. I'm looking to leave something for them. And so my goal in equipping entrepreneurs, equipping business owners and leaders how to get to that next level is so that you can go get your why. And if your why is not bigger than you, then you won't.
I wanna delve into that a little bit because I lost my mom in 2020. She passed away, and I had one of those. I'm writing a book about it. So, but my parents, they were great when they were there, but by the time I was 14, they went their separate ways, and I was sitting there living by myself. But there was a shift. I heard Eddie Murphy say that his first 40 years he lived for him. His next 40 years are for his children. And now Eddie has 11 children, but he has enough money to.
He gonna have to work. He's got to keep working. He can't live off of Beverly Hills Cop not $40. He got to keep working.
He got some ways to move some stuff, but eventually it's like, hey, wait, how many kids? 18.
Exactly.
But when it was a shift in my mind when my dad passed away in 2010. She passed away in 2020. But even though the way I came up, I was appreciative to them for what they did, but immediately your mind changes into more of a legacy mode. I don't know why the shift was so adamant. I thought I was on that tip because how much I love my daughter and want to do for her, but legacy has been running around. So, like you said, in word good man leaves inheritance for his children's children. But and a lot of times you don't know that inheritance is not just the money and the land and stuff, which we have to do, but what I see in you when you talked about your father, you're like a little kid.
Exactly.
You were like,
Exactly.
oh man, dad, you know, and that's powerful because you said your dad taught you a strong work ethic. So, because I'm learning something, he taught you a hardcore, strong work ethic, and told you he loved you several times a day.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But the work, listen, man, the work was non-negotiable. No,
Right.
my father was old school. He would break you in half. He was a football player.
Right.
His
Right.
hands were big. He was strong. He would knock you out, but he would tell you he loved you. But not working that wasn't optional. I went and got a job to get away from him. He worked me so hard. I wanted to do burgers and fries. I said, "You want fries with that?" I tried to get a job to get out. Man, I started, listen, because of my dad's work ethic, and I'm not kidding. I went on payroll as a paper boy at 12 years old. There have been no 12 months since that time that I have not worked.
Yes.
And it's usually at least two jobs. No, that man. So why you had that big shift though in that legacy piece? My wife and I joke all the time. We looked up the other day and we decided we're not old, but somewhere we became the old people. See, when
Yeah,
when those
you're that.
above you move on and you're at the top, now you're like, wait a minute. They're calling me for advice. They're wanting my help and direction. And I will say we have been very fortunate and very blessed, but everything that we've accomplished was not based on the materialistic things that were provided to me. It was based on the content, the concepts, and the character that was driven into me, the work ethic. I'm not a trust fund baby. We worked for everything, and each generation has done better than the previous. Oh, you get me talking. You think I lit up talking about my father? If I get to talk about my girls, oh, it's a whole nother thing. It's a whole nother level because they've taken the game to a whole nother level. And so that's the real driving force. So that's what makes me want to help people. That's why I do this, man. I'm not trying to make be rich and all that. It's really about helping people, and it didn't hurt to get compensated for what you do. I believe in compensation. I do. But one thing about my business is I have almost as many mentees as I have clients.
Right.
And the difference is mentees are free. And so when I watch,
say that again.
Yeah, mentees are free. I don't charge mentees. They're free. I have
some
mentees,
people
I have
have
clients.
this, and I have a big deal with this. And I'm not knocking the business folks, but I am knocking the way they're putting around. I've heard people say that some of these famous people are their mentors. I was like, oh, you know, so I'm like, no, I take his class. You pay him. You don't pay a mentor. I try to tell people you don't pay a mentor.
No.
Because I got a lot of people philanthropic folks and 501c3 and stuff like that. And some people just out of the kindness of what they do, and they are true mentors in yourself. So, and I want to make sure people don't get it confused in the whole paying mentors thing that started happening.
Let me just help you. So, and this will be my shameless plug. I do a free podcast where I give you content that can help you every single week. I do a newsletter once a month that's free. I do a webinar once a month that's free. So I'm going to help you whether you don't have to. Now, if you want to do a one-on-one thing, that's a different thing. But as far as let me see how you say this, not being a preacher. See, the preacher almost rose up, right? He just almost came up. Let me sit it down. What happens is,
say it how you say it. Say it how you say it.
I didn't get to where I am because I'm smart enough, because I'm good enough, because I worked hard enough. No, I got to where I am because somebody else took time to talk to me when I was straight dumb, stupid, and crazy. And now I'm just two of the three on any given day, not all three. That's that. So how can you leverage benefits and not give them back? I can't do that. I didn't get here. My grandmother sacrificed and taught me how to can freezing greens. We had greens every Sunday of the year. We had homemade jam. plum jelly that was made in the season and then stored in the storehouse for the whole. Yes, sir. That's how I ate that every day for I'm talking about hot water cornbread on the. This is what was done, and that's how I grew up every single day. And so you want to do all of that now? All of a sudden, you can't talk to nobody. Come on, man.
Everything has a process, and I know adults that sometimes look at me, people. You always, my daughter's like, oh my goodness, my father's embarrassing, and it just because I'm a people person, we talk to people, but and I tell my daughter now, and people are like, oh, it's people. I've had people tell, oh, it's all right, I heard it. No, 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 ma'am. Where I come from, if you didn't speak to somebody that spoke to you, that's a whole nother.
Listen, if you're underage, you better not wait for them. And now I'm saying better not because I'm refined. Now I'm somebody. But the way I grew up, you bet not. I don't know how. That's how in the country. That's what it was said. So to the day my grandfather passed away, to the day he passed away, if he called my name, if he said Rodney, my response wasn't huh. It wasn't yes. It wasn't what. It was sir. And when I responded to understand that understood what you said, it was yes, sir. To the day he passed away. His wife, yes, ma'am. Big Mama, yes, ma'am. We had manners, or you were toothless with manners. You had manners. Either way, you just decided how you gonna get it.
Absolutely. Right. You're gonna get these manners.
Absolutely.
All right. So, before we get out of here, I want to make sure that people know how to get in touch with you, but also let me ask this. I don't think I asked this yet. How has it been with the transition? Has it gone up with the help of tech? Well, you were doing simulcast in business already with technology because you were working from your office. So how has it shifted? Have you seen more buzz because everybody can get in touch with you easier?
It's a little bit different. So I've seen all sides of it, but my personal technology, and like I said earlier, in order to be good at what you do, you better invest in yourself. So I started out with a laptop. Then I had a laptop with an extra screen. Then I have a laptop with 2 screens. Well, today I've got a laptop, 3 screens, a 12:9 iPad, a Yeti mic hanging from the ceiling, and some stage lights. Okay, just technology alone, right? So it's made us accessible, but you can drown in a sea of technology because consumers can get whatever they want if they just sit down and Google it. So how do you stand out? And so so what I do in my programs is that's unique to me is that I don't solve your problem like I solve the last 10 persons problems. You know why? Because you don't have the last 10 persons problems. You have your problems. So I'm going to adapt to your industry. I'm going to learn your industry, learn your personality, and leverage your skill set. One of the things I tell people all the time, what are your most productive hours? When are you best? A lot of people don't even consider that. I don't write. I don't create content at night unless I procrastinated and I am behind trying to catch up. Otherwise, I'm going to create content between 4 a.m. and 10 a.m. because I'm literally twice as productive. Twice, 2 times. And so those are things. So technology has made it's made it where it's leveled the playing field. I've got clients that are from Florida to the Upper East Coast and things that you don't get in the coaching industry typically because they want that one-to-one contact, face-to-face, and you're meeting at a coffee shop. Well, now we've been able to expand in that way, but we've also gotten caught up in this sea of now. How do I find you? I'm following 4,000 people on Facebook, and how does your post catch my eye? And so you have to up your technology game, up the way you're doing your ads, your promotion, just to find some relevance there. But what happens with me is most times I work with somebody and they say, you know what, my cousin needs you, and they're going to have you. Period. And so that's kind of how we get there because I'm going to work with you and you alone. I'm not going to pay. I've got 6 steps for this, 7 steps for this. I don't sell that in that way. What I do is let's find out who you are, find out how you're wired. I'm not into rewiring. I'm into maximizing how you're wired and teaching you how to do the same thing. So to tell me to calm down, you need to calm down and chill. Well, that's probably not a good way to use my skill set, right? So how do I leverage that so that it's an asset and not a liability?
That's the thing people see, and you can tell, or I can tell, that you genuinely care about people. I think it's from the shepherd's heart you have. I think it's from your parents, your grandparents. And when you talk about, the reason I'm always fascinated to hear about people that came up on a farm or country, because the process, and you have to, the process is detailed, and it's slow. It's not fast. None of it is fast. Like you said, just it being incinerated, you can't just throw it on the fire and say, "Oh, it's burning." Like, did you stay there and make sure it didn't fly off on fire? Like, what do you mean?
I'm a 30
Did
I'm
the
a
wind
30
blow
year
it and
overnight
take it?
success. Exactly. I'm a 30-year overnight success. I've been doing this every day. You just saw me today. You know, that's yeah, it's every day. It's every single day. And that's what you have to teach people. And so I have a motto. I'm gonna share with you. I'm the dude. I don't celebrate small victories. I don't celebrate small victories. I celebrate all victories. So I'm the dude that I'm not waiting to see if we win the game to shout. If we get a first down, I'm like, yes. You
Right.
know, I and that's what we have to do. And that's how you keep going. I think that we don't celebrate enough. And so things that are success, we don't recognize them as success. And we're too
Mhm.
busy grinding that we can't say that we're winning because you know that entrepreneurial mentality. I gotta have more, 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 more. And we never stop to say we achieved something. You
Achieve something.
find the
Right.
balance between achieving and pursuing, it gives you energy to keep pursuing.
That's it. All right. Rodney R. Payne, people. Coach, let everybody know how to get in touch with you. Let
The
everybody know
E
what you got going on.
All right. Easiest way for me is just check me out on social media, Rodney R. Payne. That's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You know, that's where I'm at. You can, you know, I'm right there. IG, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And so our goal is to help you. Just help. Just go in there and check it out. Our podcast is called Speaking with One Voice. It's on everywhere you can find your podcast, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio. I mean, it's out there. You can find it. And we're about 80, 81 episodes in. So you can listen. And I keep them at 20 minutes. So you don't have to stay all day. And I'll come back and get you next week with other stuff. So, man, just thankful for the opportunity today. And I really appreciate hanging out. I forgot we were doing an interview. I thought we were just hanging out. So I really, really enjoyed myself.
Me too. I appreciate you so much, Rodney R. Payne. Information to be below as well. You'll see it in the YouTube link, IG, and all that good stuff. Reach out,
And I'm gonna
get the
send
help
this.
you need.
I'm sending this to you.
All right, all right.
I'm
I'm
I
literally
got
gonna give
I
you
got two
my,
of them. I'm gonna send it to you. Okay. I'm gonna
yes.
sign. I'm gonna
I'm
sign it.
using it.
All right. I'm gonna sign it, and I'm gonna go find some homemade plum jelly and just put a fingerprint of plum
Ah,
jelly there.
no, yeah, no. You can't put it. You're gonna have to put the whole preserve in a package. Now you got to get some woman, your wife or somebody, to do the preserve bowl on
Oh, you
top of
want
the.
the preserve? Oh, you want the? Okay. All right. All right. All right.
So
We'll see what we
it's
can do.
messed up now.
We'll
I
see
know
what
you're
we can
still
do.
not far from the farm. You right there in Oklahoma.
I can show you behind my house, and I live in a neighborhood, and it's really, really nice. But you look at you like, are you sure you're not on a farm? I'm not.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking time out. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye bye.